All right, we are live on Halftime Hits. This week's edition is the Titans take on the Steelers. Titans are up 13-3 at halftime. As always, you can jump over to our YouTube channel or Facebook if you want to join in on the comments. As always, I am Jonathan at JB on Broad, joined by my co-host of the Coach's Corner podcast, Mr. Ryan at
Hello, hello.
Ryan on Broadway. And you can check out all of our great content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com and at BroadwayTN on Twitter. So let's start with that performance from the Titans, which probably the biggest story, especially on the offensive point of view, is the fact that they have a time of possession that is just
Unreal.
dominating the game, right? So they've had long drives, they've sustained it, and if not for one frankly, terrible turnover by Anthony Ferkser, they may have even more points than the 13 that they have. It was very much a one-sided performance in that first half, and the Titans are dominating the game right now outside of a couple of things. So what are your thoughts and what are you seeing on offense, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, again, would we love to see the Titans go air raid attack and try to throw down the field? But unfortunately, the way the teams are playing Julio bracket coverage and tracking him wherever he's going, that's just not going to happen. And people are going to say, I can see complaints now about, well, why did they try to throw it deep to Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and not to Julio? Well, Julio would have had more coverage. Westbrook-Ikhine had a shot at one-on-one. Perfectly thrown ball, got to come down with it. Not perfectly, but I mean, it was good enough. And there's been a couple of those throws. There was also another deep one that Tannehill is rotating out, throws it to the corner, and I think it was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine again, takes a weird angle to the ball, starts backpedaling into the path and does jumps a second too early and has no chance at it. He should have been running under that in the back corner of the end zone for the touchdown to help Tannehill out. But on top of that, on the rest of the offense, they're doing what they want to do in the run game for the most part. I know it's not breaking big ones, but they're hitting their plays. They're throwing to the running backs a lot. So they're doing a lot what they want. And here's the thing. I said this before we went live. If you don't like this Titans offense, then get ready to be disappointed the rest of the season, because this is what the Titans offense is going to look like going forward. They can control the clock. They can grind out drives. That's what they're going to want to do, because their defense is playing well enough, especially against a team like Pittsburgh that has explosion possibilities on offense, but isn't an explosive offense. They're playing well, so you're not going to see a whole lot of chances from the Titans offense. And so they're I think they're playing their game. They're executing. They've missed a couple shots here and there. This game could easily be 21-3 instead of 13-3, but they got to come out and hit some of those shots and chances in the second half.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Julio Jones because I saw a lot of talk there about, are you concerned with the lack of involvement from Julio? He only had the one target, has just as many tackles as he does targets. And ultimately, the Steelers came into this game and they are very much bracketing Julio. Whenever you see him lined up there, and the Titans have tried to get a little creative, moving him to the slot so that they can try and get some of that coverage away from him, but they're using him a bit more as a decoy than anything. And that's because if you can take two guys away with one, you're still impacting the game, even though stats don't tell the full story. So is there some concern? Do you want to still try and get him involved? Because look, this isn't the first time that Julio has ever been double teamed in his career, and he still has managed to have a pretty okay career, right? So there are still ways to get him involved. Tannehill has to be a little bit more on time on some of these throws, but the Steelers definitely came in here with a game plan of saying, take away Julio, don't let that guy beat you, and see if any of the other guys can make plays. So the Steelers are kind of doing what they want to do, but ultimately the Titans have adapted a bit to it, and that is taking him as a decoy, throwing those underneath patterns underneath the routes that Julio is kind of doing some runoffs with, these go routes, with these deep in cutting routes, those kinds of things, to use him as a decoy and open up the underneath game with the running backs coming out of the backfield. So,
which is there, and kudos for Tannehill and the Titans for taking those. I know it's frustrating. You can see Julio. I'm reading some body language. I think he's getting a little frustrated. He's still blocking his tail off when those balls are going out to Foreman and McNichols, and he's still trying to get involved. So he's still a player. Things are going to break from eventually. It may unfortunately be when AJ Brown comes back, so that they can kind of balance out. But a couple points here in the comments, Bama Brad. Yeah, it's aggravating, but again, on the flip side of that, if they run it into a brick wall, then people are going to say, well, why are they running in a first down again? I get it. Run game's working, but I think it's kind of a lose-lose. But I agree with your point. I mean, running game's going, give it a shot first that close. I'm not going to disagree with that, but kudos to Downing. I mean, he's not staying to a script. He's not staying kind of like a zombie. He's actually trying some things. So I like to see that. And real quick, Gershon, yeah, you're exactly right. This offense, I tweeted out, if this offense can stay on schedule, they can control the clock like they're doing. find ways to just move the ball down the field. Defense is playing well. They can really get after Ben in the second half, especially if they can come out here getting the ball first, I believe, right? Come out here and put another long drive, eat some clock up, really skew that time possession and get a touchdown. This game could get ugly for the Steelers in the second half.
Well, and that, you talk about the Titans coming out and getting the ball here in the second half. They've already got 21 minutes of time of possession in this game.
21 to 8.
Yeah, 21 to 8. So when you talk about that, the opportunity here is the Titans, if they can put points on the board here on this drive, that Steelers defense, you have to believe, will start to wear down.
Right.
At 20 minutes of time of possession, if you can continue to do that, if you can sustain another drive, and it doesn't have to be another 10-minute drive, but you're talking even a 5-minute sustained drive, and you're going to be in really good shape to dictate this game. Let's shift over then. We're about halfway through the show here. Let's shift over and start talking about the defense,
Sure.
in which, frankly, if not for the Anthony Firkser fumble, this defense right here is pitching yet another shutout in the NFL. The Steelers are yet to convert a third down in that entire first half. So ultimately, the only points they've given up was off a terrible turnover from the Titans tight ends there. And that's kind of been the nature of the games that they lose, where they're not careful with the football. But the defense, they're doing what we talked about. If you listen to the Coach's Corner this week, where we said they're going to be able to press on these receivers and try and take away Najee Harris. Najee Harris is the guy that makes this offense go. And you see that Rashaan Evans, you see Zach Cunningham are the two starting inside linebackers. That's not just that may not be every single game, but it's going to be this game because it's a matchup thing. Take away Harris, and then again, if they can do anything that they haven't done all year, which is throw the ball downfield, then kudos to them. You're taking away their biggest weapon.
On the day, you look at the defenses. We said also, speaking with Najee, you have to be able to take away the run game. Look, the Steelers, I think they've got it skewed here because I think that Claypool reverse should have counted as a run. I can't remember if it was flipped under or flipped back, but that would make a difference there if it was a run or a pass. They've got him for 0 receptions for 12 yards, so I think that might be a run. But still, the point is they're under 30 yards rushing. And the only running plays that have had any kind of success versus the Titans today have been the two reverses. One was a double reverse, I think, and then the one was the other reverse to Johnson. So those are the only two that have had any kind of success down the field in attacking the run game. And then the pass game, they're limiting a lot of this. There is, Freiermuth, has 32 yards, but he's got half of that on one reception. Johnson has 26 yards. Over half of that is on one reception. So the Titans are doing a job keeping everything in front, not letting anything really, making the Steelers earn this, which is what you've seen for the Titans here recently on defense when they've been playing well. They're starting to get to Big Ben a little bit as well in the pressure. So as the Steelers fall farther and farther back and they have to maybe try to shoot down the field, you're going to see a lot more of these. And I love that the Titans aren't doing a whole lot of design blitzes. They're doing some just get the pressure with 4, maybe 5. They're not doing a whole lot of stuff up front to dictate the running game for the Steelers.
Yeah, the Steelers have some weapons on the outside. Claypool can make some catches, but ultimately, if an offense is having to rely on misdirection plays a ton just to move
that was my point.
basic first downs, that's not a very sustainable recipe for success there. So I do expect that the Steelers are going to have to start opening it up a little bit more. And if you can have Ben hold on to the ball, I think the only time that he has actually held the ball was a play that ended up in a sack. Right. That's not what they want to do. And the one thing that they have done, there's been a couple of plays where they've bounced off the initial tackle, but ultimately they are tackling very well. And that's the difference. If you go back to the game last year where they just did not tackle well, they did not come up and make those tackles it's not a very different game plan from what the Steelers put up 40 points against them last year. But ultimately the execution of the game plan is much, much better. So the Titans defense, I know that was the Jaguars last week. It's not the most explosive offense this week, but it's hard to not give up points in this NFL.
Yeah, we've said it before. If you're going to pitch shutouts against you got to do them against the bad teams, because if you're not doing against the bad teams, that's when you know you're in trouble. So take some comfort that they're able to do this to the Steelers, who are not an explosive offense.
Absolutely. So what are your expectations here for the second half?
I mean, much the same from the offense. Don't broke what ain't fixed, right? It's working for them. What I said is that without the Firkser fumble, as you pointed to, the Titans are up even more here, and the Steelers are off the scoreboard altogether. So there's no reason to change what you do in the offense. I know it's boring. I know it's not what y'all want to see as fans, and I get that because touchdowns are the sexy thing, right? And I understand that. And trust me, I want a touchdown every play, and every play should be designed to get a touchdown, at least through the blocking scheme or whatever. But the way the Titans are just grinding out this game, I expect to see much more of that this next drive. Maybe take one shot at some point during the first drive because of how you've set it up all game. But outside of that, I want to see more of the same. And on defense, just keep doing what you're doing. So really, the Titans just have to come out and play the same game they had and just expect the Steelers to do a little more, couple tricky things, but don't get dismayed if those work and just keep to your schedule.
Yeah, one of the big ways to take away a pass rush is to run the ball right at them.
Mhm.
So with this time of possession, those pass rushers, the TJ Watts, the Haywards, they're going to be just a little bit slower, and that can really open up that play action pass game. We know that they tried to do on the first play of the game that ended in a sack. I think they're going to go back to that as they're able to wear down this defense, and if they can just buy just a little bit of time, I think those big plays are going to be there. So I'd expect at least one big passing
Yep.
play in the second half, but ultimately, if it's not there, you may see Tannehill just eat it and take it, because right
Yeah.
now they have not shown that the Steelers can actually move the ball on this defense.
And expect that shot to be like on a 2nd and 1 where they still have 3rd and 1 to convert, that kind of a thing. I wouldn't expect it on a first down unless it's a first down right after like a big run play or something like that. So I'm expecting like their first 2nd and 1, or at some point in time they've got a 2nd and 2 type of deal where they still got a short chance to convert to that shot downfield to somebody.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate everybody joining here for this week's edition of Halftime Hits. As always, I am Jonathan at JB on Broad, joined by Ryan at Ryan on Broadway. You can check out our great content at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. You can head over to shop.BroadwaySportsMedia.com and get some great some shirts. Mine was in
Great
the washer
shirts.
today, so I couldn't wear it, but I promised you that means I'm still wearing it. So make sure you enjoy the second half, and tune in for the post game show. So hope everybody enjoy the rest of the game.